he's known on Twitter now as the man who made Dwarkesh Patel's video editor quit because the discussion about AGI or AI risk was too stressful. and I've met Leopold in 2019 in Oxford. We're both spending a few months there. And at the time, he was, I think, 17, while still in the second or third year of college. And yes, I know, he graduated at 19. And so at the time, at 17, he was writing this like 100 pages report on economic growth and existential risk. And when I met him, I immediately realized like how quick he was and that he really had this deep knowledge of economics. And in fact, I think a lot of key economists commented on his report very positively. So I think there was Tyler Cohen or Robin Hanson who really said that this report he wrote was something that like a PhD could have submitted as a thesis, and it would have been like a great thesis. And recently, he's been known as one of the first people to leave the superalignment team at OpenAI, allegedly for leaking information. And in this interview with Dwarkesh Patel, he comes back to the reason for why he was fired. And from what Leopold is saying, it seems like he didn't actually leak information, except from things that were publicly available, like the plan from OpenAI to build AGI by 2027, which is the date, the end date for the superalignment plan. They really were planning to solve alignment in 4 years and build AGI in 4 years. And in this report that he published about situational awareness, the decade ahead, and in discussion with Dwarkesh Patel, one of the core themes has really been beating China in some like race to build AGI. And when you think about it, and when you hear him really like say, like, we really need to build AGI before China, before the CCP, and we need to make sure we have enough security in place so that they don't steal our weights and everything. It kind of feels like this archetype of the like patriotic American who wants the US to win at all costs without taking into account the like AI risk. And knowing Leopold and knowing things he did before, this felt to some extent a little bit dissonant until I really like realized that on top of maybe some political ideology, there was also some core assumptions or some set of beliefs and arguments that made a lot of sense. And I'll try to maybe summarize those key assumptions, which I think underlie some of like Leopold takes. So for me, it's kind of like a Maslow hierarchy of needs, where at the bottom you have those more primitive needs, like we need to survive and we need to like not die from AI, or we need to build longevity, or like discover ways to live forever. And on top you have those like more elaborate needs, like we need to have a national project led by the US. And I think we can start from like the underlying assumptions and move to the more like specific take. So I think one of the core assumptions here is that he thinks that we're going to build AGI at some point. And I think this makes a lot of sense if you're not like an AGI denier, but for some people, AGI is very far away. I think we need to think that it's feasible to have AGI in our lifetime. It's a first step. And then you also need to think that there won't be any indefinite pause about AGI. So that's something he says at the end of his essays. he thinks that some indefinite pause on AI is, I quote, clearly not the way. And so I think his take is probably like there's so much value in building AGI, or maybe like a indefinite pause is not feasible, and therefore like it's maybe like a descriptive way of looking at the world of like building AGI now is the best thing to do, and or at least like before the end of our natural lifetime, like in the next 50 years. It makes sense to actually build AGI now, or this is what is going to happen now. So first assumption, AGI is going to happen anyway. Second claim, once you've like cleared out that we're going to get AGI in our lifetime, the second claim is we're going to get AGI soon, because by adding more investments in hardware, compute, algorithmic efficiency, and something he calls unhobbling, which is how do you like go from building computers to building agents, or should I say building chatbots to building agents. We're going to quickly get AIs that can automate a lot of work, and this will trigger more investments, more R&D, automation, and we will quickly get to AGI, and then following AGI we'll get to superintelligence. And this is more like a claim about how fast we get to AGI, and like how many richer breakthroughs we need before we get to AGI or even superintelligence. So this is maybe a step that a lot of people won't buy. This is maybe like the step of like being a scale believer, or thinking that there's like we only need that many orders of magnitude of compute or investments, and also believing that people will be willing to pay that much. So once you believe that AI is going to be very soon, you also need to think that we won't get alignment by default. I think he was part of the super alignment team at OpenAI, and I don't think he believes we have like a 99.99% chance of getting models that are aligned by default. I don't think, and anyone except maybe the more contrarian ones, but most people don't think we get alignment by default. But I think Leopold really stresses in his essay that we need to do some work on alignments, and the actual amount of work we need to get models that are aligned will probably like be in the range of like a few months to like a few years. And this is like maybe this third claim. So AGI at some point, AGI soon. Third claim is, and we also need to do alignment work for months or years. And therefore, the fourth kind of like claim is that given the current race to build AGI, and the fact that we need to do alignment, and that maybe the CCP doesn't take alignment as seriously, or they won't have the time to do alignment, they will just be trying to catch up. We need to win the race in order to have those like few months of wiggle room, or years of wiggle room to actually do the alignment work. And that's like not 100% obvious for why this would be the case. There are a lot of people would think that maybe like multiple scenarios are better, or like we need to have the entire world looking at this, and that's why we need open source. Or there's like a lot of disagreement you can have with this like step of arguments. But I think like if you really think that we need that like a few months to a few years would be enough to align AIs, if you think that that's enough, and you think like from a descriptive point of view that like even if we try to slow down, it won't work, and we still have this race, and that you think that OpenAI will be able to get maybe 2 years of being ahead if they really like race super quickly, then in this case, it might make sense to want OpenAI to do it earlier, because otherwise you'll just get less alignment work. You'll get maybe weeks or months in the case of like a very volatile race where anyone that has like a lot of power and a lot of like proto AGI that is helping them like build weapons of mass destruction, and the world is very unstable. So this is kind of the take of, we need to have one actor that wins the race by a lot. And another claim he makes, and which is interesting since he left OpenAI, is that private companies won't have what it takes to handle the amount of security required to be the first one to AGI, or the first one to robustly build AGI. And security is a big theme in Leopold's pieces of writing, and his interview with Dwarkesh Patel is he really thinks that we need to have this sense of like safety around the weights, and we need to be sure that another government is not able to steal the weights or steal our research, or in a sense, we really need to have the same amount of security or even higher than we had during the Manhattan Project. He was complaining to OpenAI leadership, and he also messaged the board about a level of security that was not at his standard, and that was one of the reasons why he was fired. And in that sense, I think from his point of view, like OpenAI will not be able to scale up to a point where they're able to be resistant to espionage, or to like people actually trying to get their weights, or like stealing their algorithm. And he gives the example of, I think, some folks at Google that were able to steal a lot of the important code by sending the code to Apple Notes, or some very basic way of stealing code. And he thinks that we really need to have like governments levels of security here. And this leads us to like the final conclusion, which is that building AGI, which needs to be a single actor doing it to win the race, should therefore be a national project, where the US should do like some kind of Manhattan Project, and with as much security as possible, and then we will have like a couple of years or months to build safe AGI. So this was my understanding of where Leopold comes from, and I think if you have those core assumptions about like how the world is right now, and like from where the world is right now, what is the safest way to build AGI? I think it somehow makes sense. I think it's like at least coherent, and I understand where it's coming from. Some part of me just feels this is like an extreme like caricature of what the most like the most scale-pilled SF tech worker could believe. Because in July, when they released their announcement of the Superalignment team, it was also the month where I watched Oppenheimer for the first time. And I watched Oppenheimer in some movie theater. I was invited by some AI company to watch the movie, mixed with a bunch of like AI researcher on this American island called Hawaii. And after watching the movie, I had seen so many parallels between like building AGI and creating nukes that I thought like I should make a meme about it. I should make a thread of like all the comparisons with the pictures, and changing the names from Oppenheimer to Ilya Sutskever, and instead of building like building a lot of things to build nukes in the desert, we should like just like create a huge cluster in the desert and those kind of things. And a lot of people from the super alignment team like saw this tweet and reacted to it, and from like reading Leopold's piece, it seems like they're really taking this Oppenheimer thing seriously. At the end of his piece, I think he says, "See you in the desert," and the the entire thing is about why the U.S. should be like creating this Manhattan Project to build AGI, and so it went from like thinking about history to like making jokes to like actually being real, and this is like a core theme of this all feels really real right now. And one thing that Leopold said in his interview is that history is back. We had history with like all the wars, all the huge amount of GDP being invested into like creating new technology to win wars, and soon we'll get huge amount of GDP being spent, and people racing, and this will end possibly in some huge war if the US and China don't like sign some kind of deal to split the galaxy. But more on that later on. So this was like one of the most important thing about Leopold's interview, and I think one thing that people really wanted to know was why was he fired from OpenAI, because he was one of the first one to leave OpenAI, supposedly from leaking information. And in this interview with Dwarkesh Patel, he really says that apparently he didn't actually leak any information. The two things that happened was one, he actually shared to the board and previously to some like leadership that he really thought that OpenAI should have way better security practices. And then the second thing he did was he shared some document with other researchers that said that OpenAI was planning to build AGI by 2027 or 2028, which was the plan they originally had in the Super Alignment team blog post. And apparently this was the reason why he was fired. There's also some reasons about him not being fully loyal to OpenAI, and like possibly like not fully aligning to some of their values around security and other things. But he also didn't sign the employee letter to call for the board to resign. And with a bunch of different reasons, he was fired from OpenAI. And he also gives other reasons for why he was starting to disagree with like the OpenAI's core values, and some of the reasons are he didn't want OpenAI to give control of the future AGI infrastructure to the Middle East. So apparently there was some deals where Sam Altman was trying to raise some money from country in the Middle East. Like there was some discussion around raising $7 trillion, and this would potentially lead to giving some of this AGI infrastructure, maybe building those clusters in the Middle East. Another area that has been reported widely with Jan Leke that left OpenAI, which was the co-lead of the Super Alignment team, is that they didn't follow through with all of their commitments, like giving 20% of the compute to the Super Alignment team. And supposedly this commitment was more to recruit people. And at the end of the day, there was like a lot of cognitive dissonance between what they were saying that they were doing for like doing good in the world and the actual reasons and the actual like follow through after the commitments. And a lot of times there were some like decisions to be made, and when it came to making trade-offs, they would often be unreliable and don't do the actual trade-offs that are hard. So now if you talk about the core of the arguments for why we should expect to see AGI soon. This boils down to like 2 or 3 key factors, like more spending in hardware, hardware being able to give you more compute, better algorithmic progress, and something called unhobbling. And if you've been following this channel for like the past 4 or 5 days, you might have seen that I've made 3 videos on AI takeoff speeds. And in these 3 videos, I talk about a model of takeoff speeds that really talks about those things like more spending, hardware progress, algorithmic progress, and the only thing I don't really talk about is this thing called unhobbling. So I was originally planning to go through all of the plots in Leopold's post to explain a little bit more of his arguments for why we would get, let's say, 0.05 order of magnitudes of algorithmic improvements every year, or 0.5 orders of magnitude of compute every year. But I think his arguments are more or less like take the previous data points and extrapolate, and there are maybe like some more recent like arguments made in, I think, a post by Epoch AI called algorithmic efficiency in language models. And other than that, I think most of the arguments are arguments that I've already described in my video series on AI takeoff speeds. So I recommend watching those videos, and I'll just focus on the things I think I haven't mentioned yet. So one of the things is that he expects that as we get more algorithmic progress and we get closer to this like human level AI by adding orders of magnitude of compute and algorithmic progress, he expects to have a drop-in replacement of remote workers. And that means that we would also automate software engineers and at some point AI researchers. And these would enable you to, automate a lot of, like Alec Radford, which is the guy who I think was behind GPT-2. And these AIs will be able to check your code many times, and at some point you'll be able to automate fully AI R&D, and most of this process of doing AI research or like core research around algorithmic efficiency comes from the System 2 process of like planning things step by step, and if you make a mistake, like you need to catch your error. And I think one of the take he makes is that you don't actually need to like learn to do like long-term planning, but you just need to learn this core System 2 process, this kind of like agentic thing of being able to do these like steps of reasoning. And once you have that, you would be able to kind of like go through the data wall of like, if you think that there's not enough data on the internet to train with like all the compute you can buy, because we've already trained on the entire internet, and there are only like so many tokens left. The next step is to use synthetic data, or to use maybe some other techniques derived from RL. And this would be similar to what happened with AlphaZero, where we went from using a lot of human data to using self-play and being able to trade train time compute with test time compute. And this would be like maybe the next generation of experiments that people would do, is really trying to use this test time compute and this inference time to like create more synthetic data. So I think one of the most important claims in Leopold's arguments, on top of just being super confident that we need to like win the race against China, is that we will have these things called unhobbling, where by unhobbling it means not being hobbled, meaning not being constrained. And essentially, if we are able to get our AIs to a point where they're useful to humans, this would unlock a lot of economic value, and this would enable companies like Microsoft or OpenAI to go from maybe 1 billion or 2 billions of revenue for OpenAI to something like 10 billions, and enable them to do $10 billion training run, and at some point maybe $100 billion training run, as like they get to like $100 billion of revenue. And so one way of getting those $100 billion of revenue would be that you take those 300 million users of Microsoft 365, and a third of them give you $100 a month for a subscription for like be much more productive at work. And if these people give you $100 and they have 100 million customers that are paying, this gives you $100 billion a year. And in this way, you get to like actually use the revenue to like build your 10 gigawatts or 100 gigawatt clusters. And one important thing here is that given how economics work, you could also claim that Microsoft would be able to issue bonds and like get those 10 or $100 billion without the revenue. And I won't go through the entire piece because I think like a lot of the estimation for like how much compute we would need, or how much money will companies invest in like algorithmic or like hardware improvements in the coming years, are things you can just like look through by yourself. And he gives a lot of precise arguments for his estimations, and there's like a lot of data. But I guess the core arguments is we're going to just follow this straight lines on log plots and end up in these regimes where basically we would need like 20% of the US production of electricity to like only feed the energy necessary for like one huge training run. And if there are a lot of companies competing, it will be even more than that. I think reaching something like 100% of the electricity consumption of the US. And I guess the main arguments are that like the US really need to understand the challenges lying ahead and like truly dedicate all of its efforts into building those giga clusters. And I think it makes sense for him, given that if you really believe that what we actually need is having those 2 years of advantage in order to build AGI first and make sure it's safe, you would want to bypass all the bottlenecks and make sure that we're really sure to win the race. Because if we don't win the race by 1 year or even 6 months, it means we will have this very fragile equilibrium, or worse, we would have this race where everything will be very volatile. There will be like a lot of weapons of mass destruction or instability going on everywhere, with like robot swarms and everything. And to fully understand the position, I think it's worth imagining or understanding what was the actual like best scenario for Leopold, or at least like one scenario he describes, which I think is really funny, is imagine the US wins the race by 2 years or 3 years, and it's very clear to the US and it's very clear to everyone else that the US won the race, and they're actually way ahead and they could do whatever they wanted with what they built. And given that, they go to China and they tell them like, look, here's what I have, and I won't use this superintelligence against you. I deeply respect you. So here's a part of the light cone, here's some part of the galaxy, and you can have it. This is yours. In exchange, we create peace and we don't try to compete with each other. Which I think he calls this an Atoms for Peace agreement. And this is the GigaBrain outcome. This is the ultimate utopian scenario where we reach an agreement to not compete, and each one gets its cluster of the galaxy. So given that, like this is the goal. This is the ultimate goal. The actual like step before that is to win the race, and to do that, you need to make sure we have enough energy production to build those clusters, and train those massive language models first. And I guess all of the other piece after this, the first chapters around algorithmic progress, or how we would get like a race to have like $1 trillion Turing run, are mostly about like why we would get superintelligence after we build AGI, which to me is pretty obvious, or at least I fully buy this claim. And there's also like some posts about why we need to have a free world and win against China, or why we need to be careful with our model weights and increase security. And I think those are more like opinion pieces and maybe political pieces. I would highly recommend reading them, and I think his writing is very refreshing. I think it comes from someone who is not affiliated to like any particular company right now, and he's really like writing it from what he believes is true, and it's like he's seen everything. There's like a lot of memes about what has Ilya seen, what did Ilya see, and he started his series of essays saying this is dedicated to Ilya Sutskever. And I think he also said, I used to work at OpenAI, but everything I wrote is only public information or comes from SF gossips. So basically his post is like, I've already failed the AGI at OpenAI, and I'm going to tell you what is going to happen next through a bunch of like concrete arguments around public information. But actually everybody knows that he's actually talking about OpenAI, or at least like he's talking about what OpenAI is probably cooking for the next 6 months or years to come. So yeah, I highly recommend reading his post. I highly recommend watching his interview with Dwarkesh. It's been a while since I've like had so much fun watching an interview. The last time I had that much fun was maybe watching Conor Leahy debate George Hotz last year. And I think that's mostly it for today. And if you have any other ideas for papers I could review, or things I could discuss, let me know in the comments. And as of right now, this is the end of the video, and I'll see you tomorrow for another episode.